He came home earlier than anyone expected. The sun was still pouring its golden light through the high windows of the estate, and the quiet hum of the city below was just beginning to fade into afternoon stillness. Adrian Marlowe, a man admired for his business success and envied for his wealth, walked through the polished oak doors of his mansion with the intention of surprising his family. He thought he might catch his wife in the garden reading, or perhaps his little girl playing with her crayons in the bright sunroom. But what he saw instead carved into his soul a wound that would never truly heal. Before we continue with this heartbreaking yet inspiring journey, if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and the power of second chances, please take a moment to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Together, we can keep spreading stories that remind us of the goodness the world still holds. Adrian's daughter, Clara, was only 6 years old with hair as bright as sunlight and eyes so clear they reflected innocence itself. Since the loss of her mother years ago, she had been his entire world, his reason to smile after long, demanding days. When Adrian remarried, he hoped Clara would find comfort in a maternal figure again. For months, he told himself his new wife, Celine, cared for the child. But in that moment, standing frozen in the hallway, he saw Celine lift her foot and strike Clara, knocking one of her crutches aside. Clara stumbled, her tiny frame shaking as she tried to hold her balance. The sight was unbearable. His fragile little girl, who already carried the burden of weak legs since birth, being treated with cruelty inside the very home meant to protect her. Adrian had always believed he was a careful man, watching over every business deal, analyzing every risk. Yet here he was, realizing he had failed in the most sacred responsibility of all, protecting his child. His breath caught, and for a second he didn't know whether to scream, to run, or to collapse. Clara's soft whimper broke the silence and Adrian's heart shattered. In that instant, every deal, every dollar, every boardroom victory meant nothing compared to the tears on his daughter's cheeks. Celine, unaware that Adrian was home, hissed words that sliced through the air like knives. She scolded Clara for being slow, for spilling food earlier, for existing as an inconvenience. Her face twisted with frustration as if the innocent girl were nothing more than a burden. It was then Adrian stepped forward, his voice trembling with restrained rage. The grand house, so often filled with laughter or the rustle of quiet evenings, turned into a courtroom where truth revealed itself. Clara, realizing her father was there, rushed toward him with what strength she had, her small arms wrapping tightly around his legs. Her body trembled as she buried her face in his suit. Adrian bent down, lifting her into his arms as if to shield her from the entire world. He whispered comfort, though inside his chest burned a storm of grief and fury. He looked at Celine, and in her eyes he saw no remorse, only fear of what her cruelty had unleashed. The hours that followed blurred into chaos. Adrian sent Celine away, demanding she leave the house immediately. No explanation, no defense could undo what she had done. Clara needed safety, and Adrian swore she would never endure such pain again. But when the house grew quiet again, father and daughter sat together on the wide staircase, sunlight slipping across the marble floor, and Adrian felt the weight of his mistakes pressing heavily upon him. He had chosen wrong, not just in marriage, but in assuming his daughter's silence had meant happiness. How many times had Clara wanted to speak, but stayed quiet, fearing no one would listen. The guilt consumed him. For days, Adrian put aside his business empire and focused only on Clara. He stayed with her at every meal, listened as she haltingly explained how Celine often scolded her when he wasn't around, how she sometimes went without meals, how she was told to hide in her room so guests wouldn't see her crutches. Each word was a dagger, and Adrian wept silently when Clara wasn't watching. He promised himself that never again would he put wealth, appearances, or convenience above the tender soul of his little girl. Healing, however, did not come easily. Clara was timid. Her laughter dulled. Her trust fractured. Adrian sought help. Therapists, teachers, even gentle family friends who surrounded her with kindness. Slowly, like a flower emerging after winter, Clara began to smile again. She painted pictures filled with colors of joy instead of sorrow. She took steps, however shaky, in the therapy room, encouraged by her father's steady hand. And through it all, Adrian realized something profound. Children don't just need protection from the world outside. They need a guardian inside the home who will choose love every single day. Months passed and Adrian's mansion felt alive again. Not with wealth's hollow glitter, but with the warmth of father and daughter growing closer than ever. Adrian would often pause during board meetings, glance at a drawing Clara had made for him, and remember what truly mattered. His empire could crumble, his titles could vanish, but as long as Clara's heart was safe, he would count himself the richest man alive. One summer afternoon, Clara surprised her father. With determination in her eyes, she took a few careful steps without leaning heavily on her crutches. Adrian's throat tightened as he watched her cross the short distance between them. She looked up, her face glowing, and whispered that she wanted to be strong, not because she felt forced, but because she wanted to walk hand in hand with her father into brighter days. Adrian knelt, tears falling freely, and told her she already was the strongest person he had ever known. And so, the story of pain transformed into a story of resilience. Clara's courage became Adrian's compass. He began to support charities for children with disabilities, funding rehabilitation centers, and creating scholarships in his daughter's name. Every act of kindness he extended to the world was rooted in the lesson he had learned. Wealth means nothing without compassion. Success is hollow without love, and a father's duty is to guard the light of his child's heart at all costs. If this story has touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support allows us to continue creating stories that remind us of humanity's deepest values: love, resilience, and the strength to protect the innocent. Before we end, I'd love for you to leave a special comment below. Write, "Every child deserves love," if you believe no child should ever suffer in silence. Adrian never forgot the day he came home early. What had begun as a moment of horror became the turning point that changed everything. Through tears, mistakes, and second chances, he and Clara built a life where kindness was no longer optional, but essential. And though the world saw Adrian Marlowe as a powerful millionaire, Clara knew the truth. He was above all a father who chose love over everything else.